This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
All right, getting back in here on Diamond Conversations, ready to get into the batter's box and chop it up with the Mad Dog, Bill Madlock, of course, a three-time All-Star, a World Series champion with the 1979 Pittsburgh Pirates, and a four-time National League batting champion. Mr. Madlock, thanks so much for coming on tonight.
Oh, no problem. Give me something to do because I've been kind of bored the last 6 or 7 weeks.
Really? Has there been anything going on in the news that I missed?
Well, you know, it wasn't for the football draft. It'll be really boring.
Oh my gosh, I know that football draft, which was supposed to be happening in your neck of the woods, was supposed to be the biggest sports spectacle of all time. Ended up being a Skype, live video draft. But thank God for that NFL draft, because that's the only thing we've had around here.
Right.
But of course, in the news with all this is baseball. Baseball's kind of taken like a center stage, because there's really not there's not much that'd be going on otherwise besides baseball this time of the year, but they keep on trying to get it started. Have you followed all the developments with how baseball is trying to get started and how baseball basically they're coming up with a new plan every day, but they can't seem to get all the right kinks worked out yet?
Well, with no fans in the stands, I don't think that'd be anything big, because if you look over the past years, it looked like the crowd at the stadium's been going down every year. It won't bad as nothing though, but still, I think the kids want to start playing, because when they start, they get paid, but still they got to look for their health too.
They're up to about an 82-game season pitch at this point. So we're starting beginning of July, potentially playing into the colder months of the fall. It's an interesting breakdown the way you look at it, but it's just kind of far-fetched at this point, because I think we're just kind of dying for any kind of competition, no matter what weird league or what new what new consolidated divisions that they make up.
Well, it's obviously want to stay close to home, and it's going to be interesting, because just like the draft, you won't know until you see it and see how people react to it, how the players react to it. But still get down to it. It's still baseball, and I think that's the main thing you need to go on nowadays, because our country's at a standstill right now.
Would you kind of liken the preparation that the players are going to have to go into, like how maybe the strike years would have gone, where you guys didn't have exactly, the same preparation time you would have? And I know in 1981, when they had the real consolidated year, would you kind of liken it to that preparation?
Well, I guess you really have to, and I guess some doctors say you'll see it a lot more Tommy John. I don't understand that. If they get themselves in shape and they get monitor how many innings a player should be okay, because there's more Tommy John anyway. It seems like more, because the kids are throwing so hard nowadays, and you can't, no way you can get away from it, with that arm whip and everything. So, I won a batting title that one year. I think they consolidate, how many times at bat you have to get before you win it. So I think I hit 323 one of those years, and that was the short strike season.
Yeah, that was 1981, and that was the season where the Montreal Expos basically came about as close as they could have to get into a World Series again, because it was just unpredictable. And I think that's what we have here, kind of on the horizon, is an unpredictable year. Now, who would this benefit? Would it benefit a pitcher? Would it benefit a hitter to have a shortened year?
Well, it depends on how they do the roster, though. If they're going to put more pitchers on the roster, right now, I didn't like the way they was doing it anyway, with 26-man roster, and you can bring up 2 at the end of the season. I think that was ridiculous. Or the 3 batter rule. So it depends on how they do that. They got to revise all of that, I think. so everybody could be safe and have enough pitchers, have enough players. So you can't see until they say what the roster is going to be like.
Yeah, no, absolutely agree. And, and again, with these divisions, even if it is for this half year or 80 games or whatever it's going to be, it's kind of like you're creating new rivalries, you're creating new scenarios. And I know, if you look at it from the East Coast perspective, you could potentially have the Mets and the Yankees in the same division. And as somebody growing up in New York, New Jersey, that's like, that is absolutely like sacrilegious. So it's kind of interesting, but it could make for a very memorable 82 games. That's for sure.
Right, and then it's 82 games, going to be a full season. How they going to give the time service? How they going to break down the salary? So I know I was reading something about the Players Association was thinking about what they're going to do with the player's salary. So it's a lot, because so you got to look at it too. 81 games, will the owners have to pay them half their salary, or you at half time? So it's a lot of stuff to go on before that July come around. So they got a lot to do, and they have to open up. Most all the players probably been doing some type of work, right. And they always talk about they don't need that much time. When you go see that now.
Yeah, I think that's actually been one of the more interesting things of this layover that we've had waiting for baseball, is seeing the guys that have been kind of posting the training videos and showing, what their workouts look like. And I mean, some guys have very extravagant, very peculiar, but very cool setups that they're working on. But it's nice to see the guys putting in the work still, because, some of those guys pick up a ball for the first time in 2 months. They could be looking at a lot of trouble once they throw that high velocity, high power pitch.
Right, so that's the whole thing, it's because you're gonna have to have more than a 26-man roster, I think, to do that, because I don't think the pitchers can go out. It almost got like to be spring training for the first 30 or 40 games, and then it'll settle down, because you just can't go out there and let a pitcher go 6 or 7 innings and expect them not to affect the arm or sometimes. So they almost going to have like a 30-man roster.
Mr. Madlock, Doug here, kind of on that same topic. You played in an era where spring training was a little bit shorter than it has gotten in the last few years. So how long would you need to warm up? Do you think, if the owner came to you and said, all right, we're going to start on this day, when you're out of it for so long, how long do you really need to get ready?
It's going to be at least because regardless of what type of exercise you do at home or away from your complex and stuff, it's still not the same, because I could work out all the time I wanted to in Pittsburgh or Chicago, but then when I got down to Florida or Arizona, it's like I never worked out at all. So it's going to be like full spring training. You're gonna have to almost have a full spring training to get back into shape.
You mentioned something before about service time, and I think that's another biggie that a lot of people may be overlooking. If there is no baseball this year, guys that have been traded to teams, especially the high profile, the Mookie Betts move, he's never going to suit up with the Dodgers. So I find that to be a kind of a tricky, circumstance. What do you think about that one?
Well, but the only thing about it, I don't think the Boston want either one of them, because with Mookie the money and with David Price his performance over the last few years. So I don't think they would bother Boston one way or another. I think it hurt L.A. more than Boston.
L.A. well. You played there for a little bit there in the 80, 85, 86. So L.A. Those fans, if they lose Mookie Betts, they're not going to be happy.
No, they have to. And I think, too, they probably thought this was the year for them to win, because they became so close the last few years, and it's no cigar. So that's the whole thing, with in the Western Division, the way they do it's going to be pretty tough. Matter for all divisions, going to be very tough the way they do it now. The 3 division. It's going to be it's no favorite in either one of the leagues. I mean, because it's going to be close. I mean, it's probably take the 80 plus games to win it.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around. But let's talk about you. What are you up to these days, Mr. Madlock, out there in Nevada, kind of doing your thing? What's up in the world of Bill Madlock these days?
Well, but nothing right now. We have a batting cage out here, and obvious that's closed down. Any recreation facilities closed down. So, and obvious, with the I usually do a few things with the Cubs coming in, dealing with their corporate sponsor and their suite visits. So that's out. So really just, sitting around, my wife, she got caught in Panama, so I'm solo.
Really?
She's down in Panama. She's down in Panama for the last 2 months and probably another month before she can get out of there.
Oh, wow. Now, how long was she there before this all started?
Yeah, she was down there visiting her family. She was down there a month before all this started.
Oh, wow. Man, oh, man. Was there any chance she was going to be able to get out, or was this just kind of like close the door and that was it?
They closed the door. They're a little more strict down there, and not like if she was in Panama City, she should get, but she was some like 4 hours from Panama, and they give you get to move around by the number of your on your citizenship card.
Wow.
You can, if you got 2, you can go shopping on a Monday. If you got 3, you can go shopping on this, or you can move around for 2 hours. And last 2 Saturdays and Sundays they've been closed down to everything. So it's not. But like I say, she's American citizen though. But she could. It would have took some doing to get out of there. By plane from the United States, but it was just too much of a hassle.
Wow, that's we're sorry to hear that, and hope you guys get reunited soon. Because we were just talking before we got started. It looks like in some places things are starting to ease up a little bit, which obviously goes along with talking about the possibility of baseball returning. But for you personally, we hope you guys get to get reunited very soon.
Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thank you very much.
But it also could lead to how we got connected to begin with, and that was, through a really cool autograph signing that you're doing, set up through yourself, through your Facebook page, which I think is very cool. We'll talk about that for a second as well. You got a little bit of time on your hands to do that, so it's a very great opportunity to connect with the fans. What made you come up with this idea?
Just, think of something to do, cause, and, watching the games. And it's really funny, I've been getting one questions about, black and baseball, cause the people who've been watching a lot of the people on Facebook who've been watching all the games on there, and they ask me about, they see a lot of, black players on teams, and they keep on asking what happened. Because the number is going down every year, it seems like. And I'm going to write an article on that on my Facebook page about that, because I deal with, kids. I probably have 1 or 2 black kids come in to every 300 or 400 white or Hispanic kids come in and work with me. So, I talk to them about it. So I'm going to let the people know what I think about it and what they tell me about where there's not that many black in baseball anymore.
Yeah, I mean, and on Facebook, on Twitter, it's a great way to connect with fans instantly, and a lot of fans, they can connect to you, whether it's a post or whether they send you a message. And that's awesome that you'll be able to get the chance to kind of share your thoughts and, maybe some interpretations as to why that is. Do you have any ideas you could share with us now as to why you think that is?
Well, I think now, before when I could play 3 sports, so this just a little bit, but now they make you only play 1 sport, and most of the black athletes I know they like to play basketball or baseball, basketball or football, and like saying and all those sports run into each other. So the coaches and everybody make you choose 1 sport, instead of letting you play other sports, and so you can develop. And I think that's one reason, and that's one of the reasons too, right there, because they don't get to play multi sports anymore.
Yeah, and if anybody could be a role model, it would be one of the greatest third basemen of all time there. So I'm curious to read what you have to say.
Yeah, it's interesting because I talk to the kids, and they tell me they're the reason, it's some of it's, it's not good though, but, some of it's, I can understand it, but, it's just, we're just, not just, I look at it, not just black players, I'm talking about American players, not just that, because, they're dealing with the same thing. The American player dealing with the same thing, black or white, you still limited almost one sport.
Right.
Instead of limited, in the other countries, it's only one sport. It's, Dominican, Venezuela, Puerto Rico, it's one sport. That is baseball. Here it's many sports to play, and I try to get other players going, but they just don't seem to feel they get a fair shot when they go out for baseball.
As far as being a multiple sport athlete, there's a Sports Illustrated article from a few years back that mentions that, you received over 100 scholarship offers, not for baseball, but for football and basketball. With all that in mind, do you think that you would have continued on the baseball path if you were growing up today?
It's really funny because back then, nobody came to a baseball game. You're lucky to have your mother and father there, football, basketball, the school loved it and everything about it. It was a more exciting sport. So I really don't know, but I was fortunate, in Decatur, Illinois, where I grew up, we had a minor league team. So, and that helped right there too. And I think what helped too, I know they got all these other countries that every team got an academy. Puerto Rico got academy. Almost every team got academy in their particular country, and we don't have that. I know we have some type of program, the RBI program, but it's still not the same as dealing with academy where they're teaching baseball, they're learning stuff. It's not the same.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about what you did by having multiple offers, I look at your stats, I look at your history, and I see, being the winner of a batting title at age 24 is a lot of pressure, and it's a lot of that takes a lot of skill. So what was going through your mind as a young kid, kind of ascending up the major league ranks so quickly and taking to hitting as quickly as you did? Because we were looking over the stats before we started the interview, and your numbers against the Hall of Famers makes them, almost not look like Hall of Famers. So kind of talk about early success you had in your career.
Well, I think that helped the players who I was around, because Ernie, Billy, Stargell, McCovey, and they tell me what they went to just to get to the big leagues, and what I was going through wasn't nothing compared to what they went to. So they made it, and I watched how they went about their job, and I just wondered, could I would have made it coming up the same time they did. They came up right after Jackie Robinson,
right,
and the stuff. Not being able to stay at the same hotel, can't eat in restaurants and stuff like that. They went through all that, and they still perform. They still at a high level too, with all that going on. So that's just unbelievable on their part.
But 354 at age 24 is unbelievable. And to be in that 1974 All-Star game, I mean, my goodness gracious. What was that like, that first All-Star game, and being around those legends and really taking it all in first time around?
That was unbelievable. That's probably the first game I watched was down in St. Louis at the old Sportsman Park, and and I seen those guys down there. We used to watch them on Saturday. I think about maybe one game back there on Saturday, and all of a sudden I'm sitting in the dugout with them. That was just unbelievable. It was. It was nerve-wracking because I was scared.
Who was the guy that you kind of gravitated to the most?
Well, in an All-Star game, it was a little different back then. It wasn't a big fanfare like it was. We just went into batting practice, hit, and played the game. I remember the one guy that we stayed at a hotel with. Bobby Bond. He was one of my favorite players.
I love the players from your era. Classic. These guys can never be duplicated again. And you see the competition that you had. It's just you had such an amazing, amazing career. And to put you on that list of guys that are not in the Hall of Fame, is that something that you think about? Is the Hall of Fame still in the mind of the Mad Dog as you as you watch the years go by?
No, it's not, because after a while you really don't know how to choose the Hall of Famers, because it seems like every year it goes from this guy, first guy said this guy shouldn't have it. He played in Colorado, or this guy might have been on steroids. It seems like one guy could be on steroids and get in, another guy can't be on steroids and be in. So it is just, and I think too is with all this MLB, all this sports thing, I think they almost force some of the writers to pick a player.
Right.
Because because it seemed like, and just like all these stats, I listen to some of these players and they talk about them on TV, and I think I'm talking about Willie Mays, and you're talking about guys hitting 10 home runs and 50 RBIs, but they got this replacement, they got this, that, like that, and you don't know how they choose it now. You don't know how they choose because you look at guys like Parker, you look at guys like Vader Pinson, you look at guys like Jim Cott. I always thought you go by your stats.
Right.
That's Hall of Fame. And just like picking an All-Star game, the All-Star game is you pick from the beginning of the season up until a week before All-Star. That's who should make the All-Star game, not what they did last year or the year before.
Right.
And that's why I understand, and the same way with MVP, and the same thing, obviously everybody knows who's the best player in baseball. That's Trout.
Right.
But that don't mean he's having the best year every year.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's And that's the whole thing, because I thought the kid from the Yankees last year was MVP. LeMahieu.
Yeah, no, he had an amazing year.
Or the kid from the kid from Houston, the third baseman. Those guys had tremendous years, and it was on a good team, And Trout's not by far the best player, but that don't mean he had the best year that year. That's the whole thing, and that's and I think that's all it got to do with the people on TV. They brainwash and they almost force a sports writer to vote for them, or then you get one guy say, I'm not going to vote for this guy because other guys will vote for him. So how does it work?
Right, yeah. I mean, I flip over the baseball card. I look at the average. I look at the hits. I look at the runs batted in. I kind of go with that classic view. So I guess the Mad Dog's not really an analytical guy. Now, somebody like our statistician here on the show, Doug, is more of like a stats and a numbers guy, and he can hit you with those wins above replacement and all these different things. But back in the era where you went off the stats, I mean, that is, to me, that's what baseball's all about. Is I look at your numbers and I say, my God, this guy was an amazing hitter.
Yeah, you can't go by that. What happened, when I played because they didn't count that. They wasn't going that way. They was going by, base hits, home runs, RBIs, and stuff like that. Now you got guys, driving in 50 runs, and they tell them they're the greatest player ever, and stuff like that. It just I don't understand, and I don't try to understand, and I don't spend too much time worried about it.
Yeah, exactly. Doug, what else do you have that you found in terms of the more modern stats that they brought out about Mr. Madlock?
Well, just looking, I've spent a lot of time looking at sort of individual matchups, and to be honest, I mean, you wore people out. And what's been interesting to me to look at, some of your stats versus, a guy like Tom Seaver, you hit 306. Steve Carlton, you hit 311 with, 16 RBIs and 38 hits. And you can go through example over example of guys that you really took care of, including, Jerry Royce, you hit over 400 against in 80 at-bats. So there's one guy that I wanted to ask you about, though, that, it seemed that you had real trouble against one person in the prime of their career. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about Fernando Valenzuela in the early 1980s.
Well, I think, he was unique, because, he threw that curveball, that screwball, in which, we never seen it before. Just like they had two pitchers like that. They had one from the left and they had one from the right. They had Marshall, the reliever. So he was different. He'd give you all that motion, eyes all over the place. He was unique. He was unique pitcher, we haven't seen before, just after a while, everybody got used to it, and it didn't seem to be that much problem.
Yeah, your last season that you faced him, you had a couple hits, including a home run.
Yeah. It just, I think it's a lot harder to hit nowadays because of you face maybe 3 or 4 pitchers a game. Back then, we probably faced 1.5 pitcher per game. And that I think that, and now, you got one guy throwing 96, the next guy throwing 97, 98, and 99. So it's a big different. Baseball is different. It's almost like they almost have to, over the last 30, 40 years, almost have to put it in 10 years, this, because baseball have changed so much over the years, with the there was steroids, the regular baseball when I played, and now the way it is now. So it's 3 different over the last 30, 40 years. Have been 3 different type of baseball.
Now, you mentioned those different types of baseball. Is there any player that comes to mind that you think maybe time didn't give their due because the game changes so quickly?
I just think, I watch baseball. I still think, Barry Bonds was the greatest hitter I ever seen in my life, under any circumstance. I got to face Clemens, and he was only a couple of times. He was by far the toughest pitcher that I faced. So, they got their due, but I don't think they're getting their due right now, and they should be, because, just like I said, there was rumors about other certain guys being on certain things, and they're in the Hall of Fame. Now, they just pick out ones that they don't like and just bury them.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, and before we wrap it up here, and we're going to get to that in just a second, I want to talk about the autographs again. Doug pulled up a really great trivia question here that we're going to hit you with. We're going to play a little Mad Dog trivia. Doug, you got that guy queued up? Let's test the trivia skills of the Mad Dog.
I'm not too good at that.
Like I said, I went back and I looked at pitcher versus pitcher or batter versus pitcher, and it takes a long time. Almost 30 pitchers to get to anyone that you hit under 200 against. Do you know off the top of your head who that might be?
No.
I'll give you a hint. You played against him from 1978 to 1987.
Still no idea.
Scott Sanderson.
Scott Sanderson. Yeah, I can tell you the reason for that. being in Montreal at the old Olympic Stadium, that background had that big sun coming through, and he was what, 6'6"?
Yeah, big guy.
Yeah, and it comes right over the top, and I couldn't see the ball.
Now, on the flip side of that, I don't know if there's anyone else that could say they hit 311 off Steve Carlton in 122 at-bats. That's not a small sample size. What was it about Lefty that you really got his number?
Matter of fact, Lefty was I never did, somebody told me that I never could, because he was the toughest pitcher I think I ever faced in my life. I really had to bear down. He was just, I think he's the greatest left-handed pitcher ever pitched, because he was just, when he came over to Philly, he was right over the top. He threw me a lot of fastball early in the count. With Steve, I tried not to get 2 strikes on him, because if you got 2 strikes, you're getting that back leg slider.
Okay. And then one more, not so much a trivia question, but I mentioned before, you hit .414 against Jerry Royce with 4 home runs and 12 RBIs. What was it about playing against Jerry Royce?
He was just right over the top. He didn't throw that hard. His breaking ball wasn't that great. So to me, he was easy.
Like I said, a lot of guys, you made Hall of Fame pitchers not look like Hall of Famers with some of those numbers. So, you did your part at the plate.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, like I said, as we wrap it up here, I put it over before the Facebook. It's Bill Madlock on Facebook, and on Twitter it's at MadlockBill. You're doing an awesome autograph signing through the mail where fans can send in their items to be signed by you. You said you have a lot of time, so hopefully you get a lot of items sent in, and you have all the information on both the Facebook and the Twitter page. But what is it about connecting to the fans like this that you enjoy? Is this something more we can see in the future? Is kind of eliminating the middleman and people going direct to the source?
Right. It's really fun because last year I had a lot of people came out to Las Vegas, and when they came out to Las Vegas, I had lunch with them. And then they came to the batting cage, and they took batting practice. So that's the first time I did something like that, and it was fun, because people say, can I come out and see you? Can I take batting practice? Can we have lunch? I said, if I have time, I do that. I had lunch with a few of the people. So it was really fun because I just started a few years ago, and sometimes some of the people who get on Twitter and Facebook, they try to take it too serious. I said, I'm not a writer. I'm just having fun. I just want to connect with some of the fans and have fun. So I'm not trying to be some great writer or no great star. I just want to talk to the fans and give me something to do.
Yeah, they're giving you something to do, and it's really cool the way you connect, and more. There should be more connection with fans, and I think a lot of people, especially from your generation, I think we look up to you guys so much that connecting with you is a big thrill, and it's been a huge thrill having you jump on Diamond Conversations with me this week, and I really appreciate the time, the chat that we had the other night, and if you want to hear more from Diamond Conversations, you can follow me. It's at Chad EMB. For Doug, it's at Doug Barclay 17, and for Mr. Bill Madlock, it's at Madlock Bill on Twitter. Come and find some cool stuff and hang around for some baseball knowledge being dropped by the Mad Dog. So, Mr. Madlock, we appreciate you coming on tonight.
Okay, thank you. You guys have a good one. Stay safe.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Place to Be Nation's JT Rosero and Chad Campbell here. We want to let you know that we have over 24 podcasts available on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and PlaceToBeNation.com. We now offer them to you on 2 great feeds. On the Place to Be Nation Wrestling feed, we dive into topics running the gamut from today's WWE to the glory days of yesteryear and the ins and outs of the territory days. In addition to our full-length shows, we also deliver to you special pod blasts on topics old and new.
The Place to Be Nation Pop feed is a veritable treasure trove of great content. Offered tremendous shows covering the land of movies, television, life, comics, and sports, brought to you by the most knowledgeable and insightful folks in the podcast world.
You can find all these great shows, plus archives of our past podcasts from over the past 8 years as well by subscribing to both feeds on iTunes. And while you're there, be sure to rate and leave feedback as well. All of these shows, plus others, available on PlayStationNation.com, where we cover pro wrestling, sports, movies, comics, plus in-depth search projects, and much more. Be sure to support our site by using www.PlayStationNation.com/Amazon when doing your online shopping. And we want to thank our friends at Boneheads Wing Bar, ProWrestlingOnly.com, and TheHistoryOfWrestling.com as well. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr. PlayStation.com, the only place to be in your pop